Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and in this week's unique training, I'm going to show you exactly how you can end this incredibly annoying problem of missing pictures and missing links inside Excel. From now on the click of a button, everybody you share this application will automatically be able to download and connect pictures in their application, so you'll never have to deal with this problem again. I can't wait to share this amazing solution with you, so let's get started. Alright, this problem has gone on for long enough, and it's about time we put an end to it. Workbooks that I've shared with you, workbooks that you've shared with me or shared with others, if you put an embedded linked picture inside that workbook, they're going to get this. This linked image cannot be displayed. The file may have been moved. It is an incredibly annoying problem that we have had to deal with for way too long. So why don't we put an end to it today? In this training, I'm going to show you exactly how any file you send, regardless of the pictures that are linked, they're going to be able to display them automatically with a click of a button, and that's regardless of how many pictures. And those pictures, of course, don't have to be actually embedded inside the application. They can be linked. We don't want to embed thousands of pictures. It would create too large of a file. So these are linked images. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that today. I bring these to you each and every week absolutely free. I just ask a few things to help us out. If you could subscribe and click that notification icon bell, that's going to ensure that you get these trainings each and every week. Also, if you could comment below and smash that like button, I'd really appreciate it. That's going to help us out. If you do like these trainings, I've got 200 of them packed inside a single workbook right now for just $77. That's available in the links below. That would really help us out, and it'll get you some amazing, incredible templates you can build your own applications right on. All right, let's get started on this training. I've got so much to show you. This product catalog creator, this application I created a few weeks ago or months ago, inside YouTube, so you can find that there. I'm going to include the link down below so you can locate this if you want to create this application. We're not going to focus on creating this application. We're going to focus on fixing the issue of the linked. So basically, with a few buttons, you're going to be able to automatically get those pictures and bring them into your file. And so anybody you send this file to, even if those pictures aren't linked, they're going to be able to do the same. So basically, it's going to look like this. Once they get the folder right, they will automatically be able to do that. And assuming that we have a right folder location, generate that, and it's going to automatically display those pictures. And however, one of the major obstacles is they don't have our files. They don't have our folder structure. They don't have the same folders in the same order. So when we share this file, those links are completely useless to them. So how do we automatically update their links? And how do we, now we can use, of course, shared folder. We have things like Dropbox and OneDrive and Google Drive and things like that. But still, even if that, they still have to rebrowse for the picture. They still have to, you still have to require them to have Dropbox. You still have to require them to have that shared. So that's not really going to work for us. I want to share these applications. I want to share these links and these files that even if they don't have any type of folder sharing, even if they don't, so that they can automatically click a button, and we don't require them to have that shared folder. That's the beauty of it. We don't need to have them sign up on a shared folder or share a folder with them. We can't share it with thousands of people if we're distributing these applications. So we need for them to be able to download and generate these pictures automatically or in a single click and make it very easy for them to link. That's exactly the solution that I'm going to show with you today. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is just a few simple macros. It's not a lot. This is not going to be a long training. So we're not going to go into this application itself, but basically the summary is we have our information. You know, we base on our product information, category, type, brand, and so we can generate those pictures. So what we want to do is somehow take that picture we have, upload it to some sort of a shared drive or some sort where we can generate a download link. And so in this case, I've used OneDrive, but you can use almost anything. I didn't have a lot of luck with Dropbox in this case. Dropbox, the download link works, but it didn't work with the code we're using. But you could use your website, you could use Amazon S3, you can use OneDrive. So there's a lot of, so basically what we're going to be doing is we have a local file path, and then we create a global file path. And so when we click on this link here, it's automatically going to download. And so if I were to go inside and open this hyperlink here, we can quickly see that it's going to lead to that picture. And that's exactly what we want. We want to download that picture or display that picture automatically. So here we see this picture inside my OneDrive. I've got it here. That's what we want to have. And we want to be able to download that picture automatically. And we want to have the application do that. So we create a central location that anybody in the world can download. And I'm going to show you how to create these links. Then we need to determine, is the local path, meaning the local path, is it correct or not? So I want something like a true or false in here. What is the local path? Well, basically in this case, the local path is the name. We have the name of it, the name of the file. We can put the file name together with what we have here in our customers. We have the folder, our picture folder. So basically the combination of this, the product pictures here, combination with the file name, that is going to create a local path. Now I need to know, is it correct or not? And I want to put a true or false in here. And so we're going to create a little function to do just that. Then what I want to know is, if it's not correct, then I want to automatically update, download, using this link, download it and put it in the correct place so that it can automatically be used. So it's relatively a simple process. Basically, the process is, you as a developer, if you're sharing your application, you need to make sure that your table contains both the local path, or the combination of your central folder and the name to create a local path, a global file path in which anybody can download it using a link, and then whether we need to know whether their local path is true. If it's not, then we know to take this link and download the picture. So it's fundamentally just 3 small macros, and we're going to go over that right now. And so while there's no exact formula that will help us do it, what we can do is create a function and turn that into a formula. So we're going to do that inside VBA. We're going to do that inside the developers. We're going to go into Visual Basic. You can also do Alt F11 to get you there. And I basically we're just going to be working with 3 macros inside a brand new module here. Remember, the catalog macros and the customizing macros, those were here already inside our original application catalog. So I'm just using this as a sample. This was already created a few weeks ago, or months ago actually. So, all right, so what we want to do is we need to create a function. Does the file exist? I want to create a file exist function. So I just put some references here, and we're going to fill out just these 3 macros inside our module here. So links macro. So all we need to do is that. So let's do that. I've already defined some strings to help us move it along. This is going to be a shorter training finally for a change. So I thought that would be helpful. And so what do we need to do? Well, what I want to do is create a function to determine, is it correct, right? So what we want to do is this particular function, we're going to determine the path is going to be whatever the string we put it in. So if the directory, we've used directory before, path, right, does not equal, we can use VB null string in this case. Then what do we want to do? Then I want to put file exist equals true. Then file exist equals true. So that's going to help us out. So now what we do, so now we just need to determine the path, and that's going to help us inside our function. So let's write that in right now. So here's what I want to know. So in this case, we're going to put equals file exists. Here it is. And what is the file we're looking for? Basically, it is going to be the combination of, I have a named range called picture folder. That is that same folder that I saw you. We'll go over it again. And what else? And this file path. So that's what I'm looking for. And then basically, let's update that. The file, file. So file exists. So now we've got that. I've already defined that as a variable. So now basically we have a 0, we have true, and we quickly calculated to true. So it exists, but what happens if I change the name slightly? I want to make sure that that goes to false. Perfect. And so as long as it does, it's true. So that means this is a valid path. Where does it come from? Again, that pick folder is something that I've created here called pick folder. This is the named range. Again, if I were to change this even slightly, of course, that would become false. And that's what I want. And the reason is when you send this application to everybody else, this folder structure, this file is not going to be the same. So for sure, it's going to return false. That's exactly what I want. I want this to be false because if it's false, what we're going to do is we're going to tell the application, okay, this is false. That means we need to take this link here, download the picture, and then put it in wherever they have selected, whatever their specific folder. They can browse for any folder here, of course, but what they'll do is they'll take that picture. So it's relatively simple. And then as soon as that picture is downloaded and put in their respective folder, it's going to become true. This is going to move to true. So all we need to do now is just copy this all the way down to all of our items automatically. So now as soon as we change that path, right, to a correct path, so for example, product pictures, if we change it to a correct path, and I've got a few different, let's go product pictures in this path here, update that here, and now they all go to true. So see, that's how it works. They're all not true. Let's fix the formatting here because I like it consistent. So all we have to do is just take care of that. So all we have to do is just basically make sure that it's relatively simple. That's all we need to do in this case. So I'm going to share that with you now, just a few macros on that. And then what I'd like to do is I create a little bit of a macro, and I want to know, is there any missing pictures? So what I'm going to do is I want to use this count if. It's just basically a count if. I can rewrite it. Count if K, all you can do 999. Count if any are false. If it's greater than 0, that means true, otherwise false. So this one, we can just use this formula here. I'll rewrite it for you, okay? Equals, I'm going to use count if, what are we counting? The range is here, located in K, and we'll go do a large row just to encompass all the data. And we're counting if it's basically false. I want to know if it's false. If it is, then what do I want to do? Then I want to make sure it's going to have, so count if false. So that's what I want to do. So if it's 0, that means there's no false. But I want to do an if then. If, count if, in this case, equals 0, then put false, right? There's no 0. Then put false, right? There's no missing pictures. Otherwise, there are missing pictures, so put true. And let's just take the E out of it. We don't need that. Okay, so now it's false. But as soon as I change something here, it's going to go to true automatically because there's at least one that's missing picture, so we can know which one it went to. Okay, so that's how we're going to do it. So all I need to do is check here. If there's missing pictures, then go through, loop through these, whichever is false, download the picture and update, put that picture inside the associated folder. So it's relatively simple. All right, so now that we have our function, what I want to do is I want to be able to upload the picture, right? We need to take a picture and upload it and create this link. Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. And we're going to do that with a tool called 𝐸gromat, one of the tools that we've been using. It is a great tool, and I want to share that with you today. So we'll write a macro, and with 𝐸gromat, it's going to help us generate and download that link automatically. So let's take a look inside 𝐸gromat. It's something we've been over before. If you have watched my videos, if this is the first time, no problem. 𝐸gromat is a great application. It allows us a good amount of free uses. And basically, it connects all kinds of applications with other kind of applications and performs actions. For our purposes today, what we want to do is we want to upload a certain file information, and we want to extract the download link from that. And we're going to be using OneDrive and something called a webhook to do that. So when we're going to create something like, once you create your free account, you'll click on something called create a new scenario here. Create new scenario. And then what we want to do is we're going to really involve two components. We need Excel to talk to OneDrive, and we need OneDrive to talk back to Excel. So we can use two functions. One's called a webhook. That's going to be able to send information from Excel to the internet, webhook. So we're going to need that. And I'm going to be able to use OneDrive. So I'm going to type in OneDrive here, and we'll be able to use this here. So those are the only two components. Once selected, just click continue. The first thing we're going to start off with is a webhook. Okay, and what we want is called a custom webhook. So I'm going to click on custom webhook, and what that's going to do is you're going to open up this pop-up window. What we want to do is we want to click add, and we create any name for it. We'll call it OneDrive connection, or any name you want. The name is not so important. We'll leave the IP restrictions blank and click save. And what that's going to do is generate this link. It is this link that we're going to be able to use inside the macro. So we're going to write the macro now. Then what we'll do is we'll copy this, and then we're going to paste it inside a special link inside our macro. It is this that we're going to be able to run it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back inside VBA, and we're going to use this macro called get global file path, because that's what I want to do. I want to get a global file path that anybody can download in the world can download this picture. So how are we going to do it? Well, we're going to focus on the products page. So it's with products. And that's the sheet we're going to be focusing on. So with that sheet, I want to determine the last row, because we may have to go through all the sheets to see which ones that we don't have, right? We need to generate those links for all the products that are necessary. So we'll first determine the last row. I've already defined the last row as long above. Last row equals, and we can use column A. That's going to be fine. So that's going to get us our last row. Then what we're going to do is for picture row equals, we need a loop, but in this case we're only going to go through one item. We're not going to go through all, but theoretically it would be 4 all the way to the last row. In this case, the last row A would be 60. So 4 to the last row, and then I'll change that a little bit. So 4 to the last row. Close our loop. Next pick row. But I don't want to do that, right? Because I've already got the pictures and it takes a long time. So we don't want to do it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and I'm just going to delete this. So I'm going to go 4 to 4. In other words, I just want one row. So all I'm going to do for our purposes for the training, just 4 to 4. Okay, and I'm going to comment this out. So it's just going to go one row and be done. That's enough for training purposes. But obviously, if you change this up, it'll go through every. And so what do we want to do? Well, the first thing, what I want to do is I want to get that file name. Where is that file name located? That file name is located right here inside column I. So I want to put that into a variable. Now I've already defined a string variable up here. If we see file name as string, that's what we're going to be using. So let's go in here and then go file name is going to be equal to what? Dot range. It is column I where that file name is located, and we're going to put the picture row, pick row, and that's going to produce the file, just the name, right? The file name. Now what I want to do is I want to set the object. Here, we're going to create a new object. This is going to help us send information to Integromat, because I want to send that entire file name to Integromat to get that global path, right? So we're going to do that. We're going to set the object HTTP, that is already defined here as an object, is going to be equal to, we're going to create an object, create object, and what type of object are we creating? Well, in order to send it, it's going to be an MS XML2 dot server XML HTTP. Basically, that's going to connect us. XML, X, not Z, XML HTTP server. Okay, so that's going to create that object. Then what we want to do is we want to define that URL. What is the URL? The URL that we're going to send, that we're going to basically piggyback that information onto a URL, is going to be equal to, then what I want to put in that webhook that we want. I'm going to paste that webhook. Remember that webhook that we just created? That's what I want to paste. Then what I want to do is I want to put a question mark after that, and then we're going to put the information. So the information is going to be file name is equal to, so that's just this part is the label. This is only the label, okay? The next, what's coming up now is the variable that we've created here. Here's the variable, so it's going to be, we're going to use the same. File name and the file name. It's relatively simple. That's all we have to send. Send information. Now, when you get this file, make sure, because this is going to be gone. This will be gone. This is only, temporary for one. Make sure that when you create your own webhook, you replace this, right? Up to the question mark. This all has to be replaced with your own webhook. So it'll create an error because this webhook won't be here if you want to download this file. Okay, so I'm just going to put update this with your webhook. So we've got that there. So now we've created the URL, but basically now what I want to do is I want to create an opening for that, and I want to send it out. So we're going to create that object and then HTTP, right? HTTP dot open. What are we going to open? We're going to use patch in this case. Patch, and then we're sending the URL and then false. Okay, so once we create that, then what we want to do is we want to request some headers. So it's basically the content type of JSON. So in this case, again, we're going to use object HTTP, but we're going to also set it to set request header. So we need to set the request header. It's going to be equal to what? It's called the content type. What is the type? It's going to be JSON. Content type here. And then comma is the application JSON, called application JSON or JSON. I like to call it JSON for short. Application \JSON here. Okay, so that's what we're creating here. Now all we need to do is just send the information. So again, object HTTP, we're going to use .send in this case, and then we're just sending that JSON. Okay, send information. So we're going to send basically that file name all the way to Integromat. Send information. Okay, so once it's been sent, we're ready to get that response text. So we're going to get a response. So we're sending information, and we also need to get a response back. That's going to be that file path. We want that global link inside that. So we're going to set, I've already got it as a right here, in the global file link. If we scroll over here, we see that we have a global path as a string. That's what we're going to be using to determine that. So the global path is going to be equal to object HTTP, in this case, dot response text. So that's the information that we get back from that. Then what do we want to do? I want to take whatever that response is, and where do I want to put that? I want to put that directly inside J. I want to put it right there. That's where I want that. So in this case, dot range J and the pick row dot value is going to be equal to that global path. Also, what I want to do is, in this case, I'm just going to comment it out, but in this case, I had some issues with OneDrive. If we request them too fast, it's going to create an issue. So I'm going to do application.wait and then now plus a time value. So we're going to add a timer in there. We're going to slow it down. We need that time value. And then we'll put in 0, and then maybe 1 minute, right? 0, 1, waiting 1 minute between it. I know it's kind of slow, but I did run into issues where I sent too many requests and then I got punished for it because I sent too many. Okay, so if we're actually not commenting this out, it's going to be application wait, so it's going to wait 1 minute. But we're only doing one row, so it's okay. So saving our work should be ML, not LM, MXML.2. Okay, that looks good. Now let's clean it up a little bit. We're only doing one row, but what I want to do is before we actually add in the OneDrive part, I want to send this information and I want to get a receipt back from that, just so we know we're linked up properly. So it's waiting for the connection now. So what I'm going to do is just click run once here. Oh, let's let it get the connection first. So it's waiting for it. So I'm going to run this macro, and then we're going to go, we don't need this with here. That we don't need. And then we got 2 already. Okay, then run it now. And then what we'll do is we'll take a look outside and make sure that it got received. So when we see this successfully determined, we know it got sent properly. Okay, and clicking OK. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add the OneDrive. OneDrive will be down here because we've already added it. So let's bring this up a little bit. You can see OneDrive right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in OneDrive. In this case, I want to get a shared link, right? We want to get that global shared link. We're going to click get a shared link. And we're going to connect it in here. And then what it's going to do is going to ask you we're going to connect it. So normally what you're going to do is you're going to add it. I've already got that, but it'll continue. So if you do it, it's going to ask you for approval on that, and then you'll go through the approval steps. But since I already have it, right, but you'll basically do that. So I've already got my connection here. So we're going to either enter a file ID or a file path. We want that file path, and we want to enter it manually. So we're going to choose from my drive. So what is that file path? And basically it's going to be that path that you want based on your OneDrive. So in my case, it's going to be, let's take a look at my OneDrive folder here, pulling that up here, and we'll go ahead and bring it in here. So OneDrive here is going to be here. Now that OneDrive folder is going to be basically, I've got them located here under product pictures. So my OneDrive folder is going to be basically just this backslash and then product pictures and then another backslash. So all you need to do is just copy this, and that's going to be the folder that we're putting in here. So let's take a look at that. So inside here, all we need to do is put it in right here. This path right here, product pictures. Then we'll put another backslash on it. And then what I want to put after that is the file name, right? So product pictures, file name, that's where that file picture, it already knows the beginning part of it. So product pictures, file name. And then in here, we're going to put read and write. And then the scope, we're going to put this accessible file to anyone who has the link. So that's what I want here. And click OK. Now what we want, we have to add a response. So again, let's just go over that real quickly. Connect your OneDrive following all their procedures. Click on the file path. We want to enter that path manually. My drive, we don't need to enter or enable ID. We don't need that. We do need the file path. We do need read and write here, and this is accessible to anyone who's in the list. Click OK. So what that's going to do is generate the link, but now we need to get that global link, and I need to get back into Excel. So we can do that with a response. So I'm going to add another module. In this case, we're going to call it webhooks. but I'm looking for a response. Remember, we need to get that response back. And what are we going to get inside there? Well, in this case, what I'm looking for is the link, right? I want that full global link. That's what we want. So where can we find that? Well, that's called web URL. It's this one right here, and click OK. And now if there's any issues, I don't want it to stop. So what we're going to do is we're going to add one more tool on here, and I just want to add something called resume, or actually we'll use ignore in this case. So if there's any errors, I just want them to be ignored, okay? Because otherwise it will stop completely. Good, so now we've got that. So now all we need to do is just save our work. Don't forget to save, and I'm going to click run once. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back in Excel, and we're going to run this macro one more time. Okay, we're going to wait for it to parse, and then we're going to see, let's take a look back in the Excel here. Here in Excel, we see scenario failed to complete. And if we take a look inside here, inside the error, we're going to see that there's 2 backslashes here. So we don't need the one before product. That was a little mistake there. No worries. Okay, so basically what that issue is, go back to here, go to the diagram, and we don't need this extra one right here. We don't need this, right? Obviously that. And we also need this /, not the backslash in this case, okay? We need the /, not the backslash for those, or for the file paths. They get converted here. So this is what we want here, right here. And click OK, but no spaces on there. So remove the spaces and click OK. That should be good. Let's take a quick look at that. Again, all we need is the / and nothing before here, because otherwise it included invalid characters. Okay, good. Let's click save the changes. Make sure we save our changes. Going back into the diagram, looking on here, making sure that we have the right file path here. That looks okay. And now what we do is we just run that macro one more time, and we'll take a look. And it's going to update that link. This time we've got it correct. So we'll go inside our Excel here file. We see that it's been accepted. Good. That's what we want. Accepted. Now let's take a look and see what the response is. Okay, going back in here, taking a look inside here, all we need to do is look in the history and take a look at that. It says accepted. That means it's error. Scenario was accepted here. And good. Okay, so we're ready to go. Now all we need to do is just turn it on. So let's go back into the diagram. We can do run once, or we can turn it on. It's not on yet. That's why I was only showing accepted. So if we want to do it, all we need to do is go into the diagram here, and then just click run once. And it's going to ask us at this point, do we want to use that? And this is process existing, right? We have 1 in the K. So now what we'll do is process it. You see it goes through them. We take a look. Let's take a look. The file name came here. This is what got uploaded. This is what we sent. We've combined that with our OneDrive. We've combined it with that path. Here is the full path of it. It gave us a link right here. Pictures. So now it's in product pictures. Gave us, and what is the output? The output is what we want, is that link. Here's the link. Here's the output. This is the full link. So we got this web URL into the output. It is that web URL that we want inside this. And if we take a look at what happened, this was the output. So this got sent back to Excel. So now all we have to do is turn it on, make sure we're saving our work, right? Take a look at that, saving it, check it out, save all the changes so that we do that. Then all we need to do is run that macro one more time, and it'll automatically be updated. So just run that macro. It'll take just a moment to update that link, and now we're done. And now back in the table, take a look, and now we have our global link. Okay, fantastic. Now that we have our global link, all we need is when we send this out, when we send this out, what's going to happen? Everything's going to go to false, because their file path, their original part of the file path locator will be incorrect. So it'll look something like, maybe their name is Fred, right? It won't look right? So their name's Fred, right? Everything in the products goes to false, right? Because they don't have that. Then what I need to do is I need to look in their folder, and I need to download every single one of those pictures and put them inside this. So how do we do that? So we can do that very simply with just a few lines of code in a new macro. But what we don't want to do for our training, I don't want to update every single one of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the correct path in this case, right? We want to make sure that we have the correct path here. Then those are going to go to true, and I'll just change 1 or 2 pictures so that we can do that. So I'll go back to there. And so basically now we just have they're all true, but let's make one of them false. So how do we do that? Well, I just want to remove one of the products from the folder. Let's take a look at this one here. The first one, we'll remove that, make sure it's from folder. And then I'm going to we'll simulate exactly what it would look like. So this particular file is called the 𝐍𝐿. So I'm going to remove that one. Then there's the Dan. So this is the one. I'm going to remove that picture from the folder. And if we take a look here, Okay, so let's assume here that we're going to use Dropbox, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to browse to my Dropbox folder. Now I've already got that in there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out. So I've got Excel pictures. Now they're all in there. So I'm going to click on that. And what that is also going to be true because I have those pictures inside already. So let's take a look inside that particular folder, which is located right here. And then, so here we've got it. So I'm going to remove that first one, 𝐲𝐿 here. This is the dance. So I'm going to remove this picture. Okay, so now what this is going to happen is when we update that, it'll go to false, right? And this will go to stay at true. So this is false now because the picture's gone. So what I want to do, it'll simulate that. It's going to download this picture and it's going to put it in the right folder. This is going to go to true and then it's going to be able to display. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we do that with just a little bit of a macro. So let's take a look inside that and we're going to call it download pictures. So this is the macro that we're going to focus on. It is this macro that we are going to be able to use. So let's update that. So I'm going to, again, I want to determine the file folder. Where does that picture going to go? Once we download it, we need to put it somewhere. We need to put it inside a file folder. And where's it located? It's located in the picture folder. We've already created the named range called picture folder. So now that we have that in a variable, we know that we're going to focus on the products with products. And we'll make sure, we should make sure if, let's just say the directory of file folder, right? And then we could VB directory, make sure that it exists directory. And then if it equals 0, then message box, make sure they select on a correct folder message box. Please select a correct folder to download pictures. Exit sub. Okay, nothing we can do if they don't have the correct folder. So we've got that there. That should be sufficient. So now what we're going to do is with the product. We're focusing just on the products screen, of course. So again, we want to make sure that we do the last row because we need to loop through. Last row is equal to dot range, and then we'll just say A, and let's do AX. I'll automate that. It's faster. And with auto hotkey, by the way. Also, what I want to do is I want to make sure that there's no need to update if we don't have any updates to make. Remember, missing pictures, if L2 equals false, then we can exit out. So why don't we write that up as well? Nothing to do there. Yeah, we can do it actually here inside products. If dot range L2 dot equals false, then exit sub. No missing pictures. Nothing missing, so we don't need to do. Okay, assuming we do have missing pictures, we need to loop through those rows, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go starting with row 4, going all the way down to the end. If the local path is incorrect, meaning this is false, then we do need to make that update. So we can do that on this line of code. If dot range K and, oh, sorry, gotta do the loop first here. For the picture row equals 4 to the last row. And then close our loop before we continue on. Next pick row. Okay, so now that we've closed our loop, so now we can use our if K and the picture row. So if it equals false, then we know we need to update. Equals false, then we need to make the update, right? So this is inside our loop. So we're just going to call this missing picture. Right? It's missing, so we need to download it. So that's going to help. We know it is very, very easily. Okay, so if it's missing, then what we need to do is we need to determine, first of all, I want to determine the local path. And I also want to make sure, of course, I need to make sure that also not only is K false, but I want to make sure that we actually have a global file path link. So J4 should not be empty as well, right? So let's add that on to make sure. And dot range J and the picture row value does not equal empty. Okay, we want to make sure then, okay, so we want to make sure that we have a missing picture and we want to make sure that we have the correct link to download it. Okay, so once we do that, we can then update that. So what I want to do is I want to determine what is that local path going to be, right? We need to make sure we know it. So that, first of all, I want to define the local path. Local path is going to be equal to the file folder. We've already defined it up there, file folder, and whatever is in I. So all we need to do is just change this to I and I. Okay, so now I, there we go. So now that is going to be our local path. And what we're going to use, we're going to use a function for this, something that I did find on the internet after some research, so it's going to help us. Now, what is that function? This is the time I'd like to go. It's a private declare PTR safe function called, we're going to call it URL download to file. And we're using a library, a DLL called URLMON. Now this is going to help us quickly and easily download files from a URL. So we're going to use an alias URL download file to A. Now by value, pcaller as long. So this is the pcaller. This is here our URL, by value URL. This is the actual URL that we're going to use to download it. Then we need the file name, right? Where's it going to, once it's downloaded, where's it going to go? Then also we want DW reserve. This is part of the DLL. And then also by the DLL, we need the PFNCB. Also, I don't know what these two are. I really don't. I guess you guys could tell me if you research it. But basically, these are part of the DLL, and they're all required as long variables. But really, the most important thing we need to really focus on is the URL. That's important. And then, of course, we need that file name, right? That full file name, where it's going to go. Where do we want it to go? Those are really the two things we want to focus on inside that. So that's what we're just going to do right now inside that. Once we have that, I also want to know the global path. What is that global path? The global path is located in J. So I just need to copy this. Actually, I can copy it all and then just make the update. So it's called the global path, again, already defined as a variable, string variable. File folder, right? So now, but it's not going to be file folder in this case. The global path is basically equal to whatever's in J. So we can get rid of that, and it's located in J. We know that it contains a value. So this is what we call the global path, or otherwise known as global path on URL. So once we have both of those and very important variables, we are now ready to run our function. So what is that? So we're going to return the value. I want to return value as a long. That's going to let us know whether it has been downloaded or not. So it's going to be in a whole number. So the return value is going to be equal to URL download to file. And then inside that, what is that? So of course, we're going to start out with 0. That's just the whole number. Then I want the global path. Right? That is the URL global path. Then I want to, where's it going to go once we download it? Well, it's going to be put inside our local path. So the next variable we're going to put in is local path. Then again, I want the by value DW reserved as 0, and then the next one as 0. And that's it for our function. So now we just need to determine, did it download correctly or not? So if the return value is equal to 0, then it did download properly. So then I want to put something, let's just say in column, the next column over, I'm going to put something here. In, let's say column L, I'm going to put some information that whether it downloaded or not. I'm going to place it in L. So we're going to do, let's just say dot range L. Let's just clear this out here. L, changing it to L, is going to be equal to what? Let's just put something like file downloaded, keep it simple, equals file downloaded. Otherwise, if the return value is not 0, then it didn't download. So I'm going to copy this here, going to put in else. Then here, we're going to put in file not downloaded. Okay, so we know if it's file downloaded or not. That's it. That's all we need to do. But I'm not going to loop through every single one. So instead of, for us, for picture row equals 4, I'm just going to put 4 to 4. Okay, I only want to do it on the one, right? Because I don't want to do it all the way. We don't want to go through all the loops in this particular training, but you get the idea. So basically, this is false. We know it's false, right? So what I want to do is I need to download that picture and put it in there. And once the picture's in there, this is going to become true. And when it becomes true, we get to generate our pictures properly. So that's all we need to do. So let's, again, save our work here, and then we can run that macro, and then we'll create a button for that, and then we're good. So I'm going to run this macro here, fix this error. Oh, this is a string, not a whole number. Okay, so continuing on here. Okay, so I got that, and I don't want this to go to the last row. Let's just put to 4, okay? Because we only have one row. We don't need to loop it out. Okay, so now we're going to run this macro, have it download, take a look inside our table here, and we see file downloaded. It's now true, and it downloaded. So that's back in that Dropbox folder. Take a look at that, and here it is right here. This one's already been replaced automatically. You may have better luck with JPG pictures than PNG. If you have any issues, try with JPEGs. It might be a little bit better. PNGs can sometimes be a little bit problematic. All right, good. Now all we need to do is we have our missing pictures, generate that catalog, and all those pictures are going to show up in our brand new file location. Why don't we just create one more button and tie that to a macro, make sure everything's nice and tight, and we're going to call this update. Let's update pictures, okay? Make it easy, update pictures. And there we go. All we need to do is then tie this up with that macro that we just created. And then we can do that everything inside there. Okay, I like that. That's going to be sufficient. We'll center that here inside that and then tie that to the macro that we just created. So clicking assign macro, and now we have download pictures. Okay, clicking OK, clicking on that, and I'll return this back to the way it was. So we'll go to the last row so that it can generate here all the way to the last row. And I'm also going to add this in application wait time. We're going to add in 1 minute so that we don't have any issues, so that you can see that. And I'm going to return this one to the last row too, just so that way when you get this, I'll provide this workbook for testing. Keep in mind, you may have some issues with PNG. Try it with both JPEG and also try it on other platforms. I'm not thrilled with OneDrive. It worked okay, but I'd like to see you try. It works great with my website. It works great with Amazon S3. So try different platforms for uploading and see which one is faster and works better with you. All right, thank you so much for joining me. Given an incredible training today, showed you a lot. Go ahead and download this absolutely free in the links, and don't forget about the 200 workbook zip file I have available for you for just $77. That's going to help us out and get you an amazing, incredible package of unbelievable templates for you. All right, thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.